We are diving deep today into what might be the single biggest proposed change to residency law in the UK in decades. The headline is dramatic.
I think that's fair to say. Decades, easily.
Yeah, it fundamentally changes the relationship between the state and, those building a life there. The UK is proposing this massive overhaul of its immigration system, specifically redefining the pathway to permanent residency
Yeah.
or indefinite leave to remain, ILR.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the central idea, the core of this policy, is shifting ILR from what was, generally considered a time-based right to a privilege that must be earned. That's their language. And the change is just shocking in its scale. The proposed baseline waiting period for most migrants is doubling from 5 years to a full 10 years.
And that core change from 5 to 10 years is really what sets the stage for all the complexity that follows. And, this isn't speculation. This comes directly from a command document published by the UK government.
The earned settlement proposal.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Their stated rationale is, well, it's pretty clear. They say they need to curb net migration and alleviate what they're describing as immense, unsustainable pressure on public funds and public services.
So our mission here is to navigate this complexity for you.
Yeah.
This deep dive will break down the entire earned settlement model. We're going to look at these new, really complex timelines. We're talking 3, 5, 10, 15, even 30 years.
Yeah.
And we'll detail exactly what economic or social contribution you might need to make to qualify and what actions could risk adding decades to your waiting time. So let's start with why. Why this shift from a time-based status to this ongoing contribution model right now?
It connects directly to the government's own migration forecast. I mean, they're projecting 1.6 million people are due to settle in the UK just between 2026 and 2030.
1.6 million.
Yeah, and they argue that this places an immense pressure on local communities, on taxpayers, and crucially, the Home Secretary has been incredibly vocal about what they see as a failure of recent policies.
Specifically the Boris wave.
The so-called Boris wave immigration controls, which they argue were, quote, drastically lifted.
Can you give us a concrete example of where they think those previous controls failed?
The prime example they keep citing is the health and care visa.
Right.
So when salary requirements were dropped for that route, the intention was to fill, a few thousand critical roles. But what actually happened was this. Just unprecedented influx. We're talking 616,000 individuals arriving between 2022 and 2024 alone.
Wow, 616,000.
And here's the statistic the government is really focusing on. Over half of those arrivals were dependents.
Spouses and children, not the workers themselves.
Exactly. So the government is arguing that this loophole created abuse that was rife, adding this huge unexpected strain on housing, schools, and healthcare. This whole proposal is a direct response to that.
So, okay, if the government wants fewer people settling, they're making the path longer and a lot more difficult. They've introduced this mandatory, almost punitive bar of requirements.
A disqualifying bar.
Yeah, if you fail these 4 conditions, settlement is just off the table, regardless of how long you've been in the UK. What are they?
Well, the first 2 are pretty familiar. A clean criminal record and English proficiency at a B2 level minimum. Plus, passing the life in the UK test.
Okay.
The third is the requirement for sustained national insurance contributions, NICs.
And just for anyone unfamiliar, NICs are the payments made by employees and employers. They fund state benefits and the NHS. So basically, they want proof of long-term economic activity.
Precisely. And the fourth point, this is the crucial new detail, it dramatically expands the financial scrutiny.
How so?
To qualify, applicants must have absolutely no debt to tax authorities, the NHS, or any other government body.
Wait a minute. Are they really equating, say, outstanding dental charges or an unpaid tax penalty with a fundamental lack of character?
That is precisely the implication.
That seems incredibly harsh, disproportionate.
It is. It elevates financial adherence to government bodies to the same level as a clean criminal record. It really signals that this new system is focused on minimizing any potential liability for the state. If you owe the NHS £10 for a prescription, you are disqualified until it's paid.
Wow.
And this leads us right into the structure of the earned settlement model itself. It's a complex, point-based system, and it's built on 4 pillars that are meant to measure your worthiness for settlement.
Okay, let's go through those 4 pillars. How is the government defining contribution?
So the first pillar is character, which we just discussed, clean immigration history, no criminal record, and critically, no outstanding government debt.
Okay.
Second is integration. This demands tangible engagement with British society. So that's the B2 English test and passing the Life in the UK test.
And the third pillar is contribution, which sounds like it's the most critical one.
It's the largest component by far.
Yeah.
It measures sustained economic activity through your earnings, your tax payments, NIC payments, but it does also recognize non-financial value.
Like volunteering.
It's like volunteering or public service. And then finally, the fourth pillar is just residents' lawful continuous residence in the UK without any penalties or breaches of immigration rules.
I do appreciate that they at least factor in volunteering and public service. It's a nod to community value, not just the value on your tax return.
It is a nod, yes, but the weight given to the economic contribution is paramount, and that becomes really clear when we look at the fast-track routes.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because that 10-year baseline, it's not a fixed reality for everyone. This proposal is explicitly designed to incentivize very high earners to stay by just drastically cutting their waiting time.
The biggest incentive, the biggest fast track, is for what they call high earners. If you earn £125,140 or more annually for a minimum of 3 continuous years, you can bypass pretty much the whole framework and qualify for ILR in just 3 years total.
That is an aggressive 7-year reduction. It's clearly targeting the global top-tier investors, executives, elite talent.
Absolutely. Then you have the mid-high earners. So individuals earning £50,270 or more annually, again for at least 3 continuous years, can qualify in 5 years.
So a 5-year reduction from the new 10-year baseline?
Exactly. And that threshold, the £50,270, that also happens to be the general salary threshold for the UK's skilled worker visa. So it shows where the government is prioritizing stability.
But what about all those essential workers the UK relies on who might not hit those high salaries? People in public service.
Right. So those working in defined public services, we're talking doctors, registered nurses, and teachers, they will retain the 5-year ILR route. They're exempt from the 10-year baseline.
That's a key exemption.
It is. And likewise, special visas like the Global Talent and Innovator Founder visas, they also keep a 3-year qualification period.
Okay.
But going back to those non-economic ways to reduce the time, proving a higher English language level, specifically C1.
Which is near native fluency.
Yes, near native. That earns you a 1-year reduction. So it brings the baseline down to 9 years. And that community contribution we talked about, volunteering, that could grant a reduction of 3 to 5 years, though the final rules on that are still pending consultation.
So if you manage to hit C1 English and you volunteer heavily, you could potentially shave 6 years off that 10-year path, even without changing your salary.
I mean, this still feels like the government is building a system that privileges wealth above everything else.
That reading is very hard to argue with, especially when we look at the other side of the proposal. The groups who are facing significantly longer waiting periods and the sheer scale of the penalties.
Right.
I mean, the most alarming and controversial proposal targets the health and care workers.
Specifically, the lower paid ones.
Exactly. For low qualified or lower paid workers in the care sector, the proposal is a 15-year wait for settlement.
15 years.
15. This is primarily for jobs that are designated below RQF Level 6.
We need to unpack that jargon. What does RQF Level 6 mean in context for you listening? RQF is the Regulated Qualifications Framework. Level 6 is equivalent to a bachelor's degree level of qualification.
I see.
So by targeting jobs below that level, they are targeting essential frontline care workers, the carers, support staff, people in lower paid but vital roles who often don't have formal degrees, but whose work is critical to the NHS and to elderly care.
A 15-year wait for people doing that essential work it's a colossal disincentive. What's the immediate societal impact expected to be?
Well, union leaders have called the plan immoral, given how much the sector depends on foreign labor. It's a genuine threat to patient safety. There was a recent survey suggesting that up to 50,000 nurses, many of whom came on the very health and care visa the government is now targeting, could quit the UK over these changes.
So it could make the workforce crisis even worse.
It risks making it much, much worse.
And it's not just the sector-specific penalties. Accessing public funds, that acts as a major multiplier on your waiting time.
A huge multiplier.
Yeah.
The penalties are designed to be prohibitive. This just reinforces that core goal. Migrants must be net contributors, not users of the welfare state.
So what are the numbers?
If you access public funds, so benefits, tax credits, that sort of thing, for less than 12 months, you face a 5-year increase on your settlement route.
So the baseline 10 years becomes 15?
It becomes 15 years total, yes.
And if you access benefits for more than 12 months?
That's where it really jumps. That's a 10-year increase.
10 years.
So your total waiting time becomes 20 years. And let's run a quick hypothetical to show how severe this is. Imagine a lower paid care worker. They're already starting at that 15-year base because of their sector.
Right.
If they use benefits for, say, 13 months, they stack that 10-year penalty on top of their 15-year route. They are now looking at 25 years before they can settle.
Yes, Hans.
Yep.
That's essentially a lifetime commitment with no guarantee of settlement at the end. And the waiting times get even longer for those who enter the country outside of the established routes.
Oh, significantly longer.
Mm-hmm.
Illegal entry, including arriving via small boats, can add up to 20 years to the baseline. That results in a staggering 30-year wait for settlement.
30 years?
Overstaying a visa beyond 6 months can also lead to a 20-plus year increase. And even recognized refugees who have already been granted core protection status by the UK will now qualify only after 20 years. This proposal is about drawing very, very strict lines.
Okay, now we have to address the most pressing question for anyone listening who is currently on a visa pathway in the UK.
Retrospectivity.
Exactly. Does this affect them, or is it only for future arrivals?
The document it's explicit. And this is where the controversy really, really peaks. It proposes that these changes apply to everyone. Everyone in the country today who has not already received indefinite leave to remain.
So even if you arrived here thinking you were on a 5-year plan?
It includes you, even if you expected to apply in the coming months under the existing 5-year rule.
Let's ground this in a real scenario. Imagine someone, let's call her Sarah, who arrived in 2023 on a skilled worker visa. She was working towards her ILR application in 2028. She organized her whole life around that 5-year timeline.
Under this new proposal, Sarah's expected 2028 application date, it would be wiped out.
Just gone.
Gone. Unless she hits one of those high earner exemptions, her new expected application date is 2033. It just creates immediate, massive uncertainty for hundreds of thousands of people who made major life decisions based on that 5-year route.
Which raises an important question. What about transitional arrangements? Surely there has to be some acknowledgement of the disruption this causes.
While the government does propose applying the changes immediately when they take effect, they have stated they are consulting on transitional arrangements for those currently on the 5-year route. But the advice from legal experts is crystal clear. If you are eligible to apply under the current rules, do it now. Do it immediately, because transitional arrangements are not guaranteed and they will likely be complex and restrictive.
So what is the timeline for implementation? When might this switch actually flip?
The consultation period began in late 2025. It runs for 12 weeks until February 2026. After they collect feedback and draft the final rules, implementation is expected around spring 2026.
So maybe May or June?
Probably May or June, which is why immediate preparation is so essential.
And we also need to highlight a final, critical change that impacts families.
Dependents, yes.
It seems the family unit is no longer a guaranteed package deal.
That's right. The proposal is that dependents, and this includes children, must now earn settlement in their own right. This is a huge move away from the current system where they typically get ILR at the same time as the main visa holder.
So every single family member wanting to settle will need to meet their own criteria.
Likely, yes, including the financial and integration requirements, which dramatically increases the bureaucratic hurdles for families to settle together.
It's just... the magnitude of this shift cannot be overstated. We are moving from a relatively simple, time-based status to this incredibly complex, contribution-based assessment tied directly to your salary, your sector, your language skills, your financial conduct.
It's a massive pivot.
A massive pivot towards incentivizing only the very highest earners.
And that pivot requires an immediate, detailed response from anyone who might be affected. If you are nearing that 5-year mark, applying before the rule change in early 2026 is critical.
And for everyone else.
For everyone else, you have to start building a paper trail of impeccable conduct right now. Make sure you're working towards that C1 English level, rigorously document any community contribution, and eliminate any outstanding debt to any government body immediately.
This entire framework is designed to incentivize the high-earning, highly skilled, long-term workers. So we'll leave you with this provocative thought. If government claims its rationale is managing pressure on public services, What does the proposal of a 15-year wait for lower-paid essential workers, like those in the care sector, signal about the true long-term value the UK government placed on that specific definition of contribution to the national economy?